Hello everyone. So you guys have seen me do a run of fairy typing on X for their mascot. I figured it's only fair that we do the same for Y doing a dark type run. As usual, you're using standard Hardcore Nuzlocke rule sets that are on screen now. If you want to read them, give the video a pause. And if you don't want to do that, they're always in the description below, so you can always give them a read there. Anyway, after we change out of our pajamas, we're ready to begin this run. The starter I choose to pick is Froakie. This is because it does actually become a dark type, and until we get a dark type, it is going to be a Pokemon that we have to use. Until we do actually get a dark type Pokemon though, we are allowed to use any that would evolve into one. First battle, as always, against Serena is quite easy as she picks the Pokemon that is actually weak to your typing, and at this point you have a stab move of your type. It's got some pretty decent stats, and on top of that, it's got a serious nature, which means nothing happens to it, which actually can be decent. I was hoping for a plus special attack, but you get this, and at least there's no downside to it. I then go and try to take photos so I can get the wide lens, but it turns out a little sign is under construction. How is that a thing? Now, beating this gym with only a Froakie is actually a very tough thing when you've got level caps in there. This means the only thing I could think to do was max out its special attack, and that makes the calculations where it is actually physically possible. So anyway, let's see exactly how it goes. She starts off with Surskit, as I've obviously put my Lucifer up to the point where it is about to evolve. After a few quick attacks, I get it down to the red, and then it uses a potion. Now, during my calculations, I actually forgot this photo would be a thing, which is devastating. From that point, we can take down the Surskit, but we are on about 20 health when that actually happens. Pavilion then comes in, and obviously I didn't account for it, so it easily takes us down. But we actually do get a crit, and we're in Torrent, meaning we knock it really low. We're on 2 health, and we're faster, so we do take it out. Thanks to the Torrent boost, there was actually a 60% chance I would KO it anyway, but thankfully we got that crit, so we didn't need to worry about the ranges. As I'm progressing through the trainers, my Froakie then evolves. Still not a dark type yet, though. We then have a bit of story involving Professor Sycamore, who welcomes us to his town and his country. Well, I think country's right. Are different regions supposed to be different countries in Pokemon? I think so, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm right. However, we're level 17 at this point, and he's level 10 on all of his Pokemon, plus we're a second stage evolution, so it goes by just as quickly as you can think. I pick up a Squirtle, as I think a Surf is quite a good HM move to have, and it's an easy HM slave right here. I then progress in the game a little further, and I run into a cafe where some crazy ginger man, I mean, look at that hair. I wish I could get mine spike up like that, but the barber said it is impossible. Now, since that guy's ginger, we know we can trust him. Plus, he's speaking to the champion of the region, and they wouldn't trust a bad guy, would they? We progress on to the next route, and we actually run into a Pancham as our encounter. We had a slight chance of this being a Scrafty, which could have known Moxie, so that would have been the better pick. But Horde encounters are quite a low percentage, so I was kind of expecting it. Then have a guy who's looking for a Dark-type Pokemon, and since this is a Dark-type run, none of ours are actually Dark-type yet, so we can't get them good vibes from him. We then have our path blocked by a Snorlax, and look how cute he is! Mouth wide open and everything, he's adorable! We then run into a man who's trusting us to keep in charge of his berry farm. He gives us 5 Oran berries and 5 Pecha berries, so of course we take them and run since we're a Pokemon trainer and we need them. Then I find out to actually get this Snorlax woken up, I have to pay an extortionate price just to get into this beautiful castle. One plus side is they do put on a fireworks show for us, and she's never done it with a boy before. Now, don't take that in the wrong context. We're on about watching fireworks. I am now ready to wake up and battle this Snorlax, and I thought it was going to be a threat, but apparently it's just wanting to be a defensive powerhouse, and it just raises its defenses like mad. Anyway, now we're done with that, we can head on to our next encounter, and that encounter is going to be an Absol. However, catching this thing did almost end the run. As you can see, he took down my Pokemon really low, and Incubus really wasn't that high on health, so we could have lost this here. I then get the joy of riding around on a Rhyhorn until we find and catch a Sandile. I realised I didn't show you the natures of them, so Absol is a gentle nature, and we've got a bashful nature on this Sandile. Thankfully, both of these Pokemon are ideal for the next gym leader. He leads with Amora, while I lead with my Absol, and I actually get a flinch with the bite, which makes me able to take it out. Either way, it wouldn't have done much to us. His Tyrant then comes out and we trade criticals. Not that my crit matters, as it actually puts him into healing range, so it gives him another chance to attack us. With my speed lowered, he is actually faster than me, so can hit me with a stomp. However, even with a crit, I wouldn't have been taken out here, so I know it's safe to just carry on. Now I'm on to my next route. I can get my next encounter, and that's going to be an Eevee. If we're playing on X, we could have got Houndour, but it just didn't feel right doing the Dark-type run on X. As we travel a little further, we have our little Sandile evolve into a Krokorok. I really like the way Krokorok comes off your tongue. It's such a good name to say. We then have quite a scary fight against Karina, as she has 2 Lucarios. We start off with Krokorok, and he does good damage to Lucario, but he is almost taken out himself. This means I switch to Crunch to know I'm going to get a safe knockout. And then, because Krokorok has the ability Moxie, my attack is actually upped from taking it out. I do debate switching out, but then I do my calculations, and I realise 1 Sand Tomb is enough for this Lucario. After that frightful match, we can now go on and catch our next Pokemon, and it's a Sableye, which is fantastic for this next gym. Thankfully, this level cap is 32, which is the exact time in which Pancham evolves. We then move on a little further, and we've been given an intriguing stone, and we do give it to a man, and he must be a human lie detector, as he won't let us take any credit for it. Anyway, before that gym fight, we have a fight against Serena. She starts off with her Meowstic, and I bring out my Lilith. I start out by just using a bite, and it takes it out in 1. After that, she sends out her Absol, and I have to use Slash, as we've got the ability that ups our critical hit ratio, and Slash has already got a higher critical hit ratio. After that, I opt to use a quick attack, because I know they're going to quick attack, and a crit can actually be dangerous for me if I don't use it. So I do that, hoping for a crit myself. I don't get it, unfortunately, and it doesn't get one again itself, so we can take it out with 1 more. At this point, we've only got the Quilladin left, and I've taught ourselves Aerial Ace, so we don't have to worry about that. It only takes us 2, and we've knocked it down. With that done, Karina finally says we're worthy to take on her gym, so let's go do that. She starts off with Mindfu, so I decide to start off with Lilith. I use a Protect, as I know it's going to go for Fake Out this turn. After that, I can go for an Aerial Ace and take it out in 1. She then sends out Howlucha, and I switch into Amon, as he's a Ghost type, and Howlucha actually cannot hit us. Because the only one of her Pokemon that can hit us is Machoke, she obviously opts to switch that in on this turn, so the Howlucha isn't being taken out by us. I do some okay damage with a Fake Out to it, and then I just Shadow Sneak it. The Rock Tombs really aren't doing too much to me, so I can just continually use these, and even with her healing up, we managed to take it out easy enough, and that is this gym 1, as I said before, Howlucha can't touch us. Such a saving grace getting a Ghost type before this gym. We then have the Lucario fight, so let me know in the comments how annoyed you are that we used a Fighting and Steel type. In all seriousness though, the majority of you are very helpful in the comments, and it is really helping me grow to be a much better Nuzlocker in my content, and I thank you all so much for this. You're all turning up, you're liking, you're commenting, and you're subscribing, and I can't thank you all enough. Anyway, sappy stuff out the way, you don't want to listen to that, so let's get on with the run. Obviously, before we begin the full bit of the run, we have the joy of riding around on a Go-Go. Now, I know it is a universal thing that everyone loves this. I also caught an Inkay in Azure Bay, but I apparently forgot to record it, so here's the evolution of it. Anyway, that done, we're now ready to take on Ramos. Now, this is a grass gym, and Lilith knows Sword Stance and Aerial Ace. This means all we need to do is get 1 Sword Stance set up, and it is a clean sweep. We then have the Power Plant section, but most of them have only 1 Pokemon, and we've got answers to them all, so I'm just going to skip past it. However, one thing that does happen that is good for us during this is we do get Lucifer to finally evolve and get his Dark typing. After that, we run into the BFG. Am I showing a bit of a considerable age here, knowing that reference, or is it just a film everyone's seen? Anyway, nothing exciting happens between there and Clement, so let's just get into the Clement fight. I decide to start off with Sableye, as he's able to Fake Out the Emolga. I do this as I want as much chip damage on it as possible, as Emolga's really the only threat, as we've got Krokorok and its ground typing. Obviously, he does Volt Switch us out and he brings out his Magneton, but I know this thing's going to go for an electric move, so I can safely switch into my Krokorok and take 0 damage. I then use Dig as he holds on with a Sturdy, but it doesn't really matter too much as I can Crunch the next turn and then Dig as he's only going to heal up, and since we're faster, we take it out. He then opts to send in his Heliolisk. Now, Heliolisk does no quick attack. This move obviously will hit us first, but thankfully something changed in this gen around critical hits. They went from 2 times to 1.5 times. This means I was safe from the crit. It doesn't get one anyway though, so we take it down in 1 dig. And then Emolga comes out. Now, this thing is on half health, but we're too low to be able to take a hit, so I switch back into Aimon. It hits me with an Aerial Ace the next turn, but it's just not enough, and since it's on half health, it only takes one Rock Tomb, and we've taken it down. We then meet up with Professor Sycamore in Lysandre Cafe, and we run into Lysandre himself, the beautiful ginger man, and he gives us something. What a truly kind man he is. We then have another Serena fight. Now, my Absol was actually over-leveled for the last gym, so I boxed it. Therefore, I decided to start off with Sableye, and he takes down the Meowstic with ease. However, we then have Chestnut, and I do very pitiful damage to it, like next to nothing with a Rock Tomb, but I do get its speed lowered, which is what I was going for. However, we're now on 3 health, so we have no choice but to switch out, and we actually get crit on Incubus coming in. I then opt to go for a Karate Chop, which, looking back on it, was a bad move. I should have gone for a Body Slam to give the chance of paralysis. And because of that bad move, he uses a Seed Bomb, and we have lost our first member, being Pangoro. Silver lining, though, is this does give me a free switch into Malmar, which is what I need to be able to take this thing out. I missed my first Hypnosis, but the second one does thankfully hit, and that means I am now safe to just take it out with a few Psybeams. Next up, we have Absol, and this thing is a massive threat, so I actually use a Hypnosis on it before switching into Merryhem. It wakes up the turn after I use a dig, but thankfully it gave me enough time to get this dig off, and I do take it out, but I was only on 16 health, so if it had woke up the turn before, it would have been devastating for me. That crit was very unfortunate on the Pangoro, but I did also make a bad judgment call right after it, so I suppose it is quite a bit of me to blame as well. We then go to the scary house, and we get told a scary story within it, but honestly, it wasn't worth my time, and he then asked for a tip afterwards. Like, I don't tip everyone. I'm not an American, so no thanks, sir. As we move on a little further, Merryhem finally evolves into a crocodile. And with that done, we're now ready to head on to the Fairy-type gym. Now, Fairy-type is strong against Dark-type, but she actually starts off with a Mawile. Now, this thing, they didn't give any Fairy-type moves, so we are safe to set up on it. After 2 power-up punches, we're now ready to go for a dig, which obviously takes it out. And then because we've had the opportunity to set up and we're faster than all of her Pokemon, we can now cleanly sweep them. Mr. Mime goes down to 1 dig, and so does Sylveon. It wasn't even a challenge. Like, they should have just given Mawile a play rough here. Would have made it 1,000 times harder to plan round. We then go through all the Pokeball factory stuff, but again, Team Flare isn't really anything to worry about, so we'll just skip to the point where I got a nice big nugget and a Master Ball. As we progress a little further, we can then get another encounter being a Pawniard. We then have the opportunity to save the beautiful Pokemon that is Abomasnow. Like, you can't say you wouldn't just love to cuddle that thing. We then get the pleasure of riding round on his friend until we find our next Dark-type Pokemon being a Sneasel. I do have a gripe with this encounter though, as we can't naturally get the item to evolve it in this game, so we're stuck with it just being a Sneasel. We then have another battle against Serena in front of a gym, but this one went a lot more swimmingly as we was able to bring Absol. We can set up 1 Sword Stance against the Meowstic to up our attack before switching to a Night Slash to take it out. Obviously now a double power Aerial Ace is more than enough to get rid of the Chestnut. Then we've got the Vaporeon. Now, I know this thing can do decent damage with a crit, and I actually opt to chance it because it wouldn't have taken us out regardless without that. However, one thing I didn't think about my damage calculations was the hail damage. So had it crit, we would have lost Absol here. Obviously, with the Absol being in, it can't take another hail hit, so we actually opt to switch into Lucifer, but he gets crit on entry. This means we can't risk another crit, so we actually have to switch out, and I choose to switch into Beela. Unfortunately, on this turn, it sets up a Sword Stance, which is very scary, so I need to land a Hypnosis on this thing. In the time that I do, though, it lands yet another crit on us and takes us extremely low, but thankfully our Hypnosis does hit. This means we are now safe to switch into our Krokorok, and we use Power-Up Punch against it. Unfortunately, it wakes up and gets yet another crit. 3 in a row. Thankfully, though, it wasn't enough to take us out, so all we need is 1 more Power-Up Punch and he's down, but 3 in a row. That is a joke. Anyway, with that done, we can now take on the 7th gym, but it's a Psychic gym and we are Dark-type, so I think you can see exactly where this is going. We start off with Lilith, and all we need to do is set up 1 Sword Stance, and we can slash away. Even after Reflect has been set up, we just sweep entirely through them, one-shotting the whole lot, which is so good after such a close battle beforehand. We then find out that the beautiful Ginger Man is evil. Like, I couldn't have seen that coming. How could such a kind and beautiful man be evil? Well, for you betraying us, Gingers, I'm gonna have to take you down. However, there's one flaw in my plan, and I forgot to heal before coming into this battle. This means we start off with our Absol at around half health, and it does still manage to take the Mindfu out, but it does put us at a risk when Gyarados comes out. I play around for a while deciding what Pokemon switch in, and I figure he's gonna go for an Aqua Tail, so I've got to switch into Lucifer, and thankfully I called it right. At this point, Lucifer knows Smackdown, so I use Smackdown against it, hoping I might be able to do something good with my Crocodile. I go for a Sandstorm as my brain got Ground and Rock types mixed up, and I thought it would boost his defenses, but I was wrong, so an Outrage takes us insanely low. After that, it's not safe to stay in, so we need to switch in, and we need to use a few Hypnosis until the Gyarados goes asleep, and then we're safe to take it out. Pyro then hits us with a Fire Blast, which burns us as we do incredibly minimal damage with a Psycho Cut, thanks to having our attack halved. I then have a decision to make, and I need to sack a Pokemon. Now, the one I think is the least useful for carrying on forward is Sableye, so I opt to switch into that. Thankfully, it does happen to use a normal move, so we can get a Fake Out for some chip damage, but I do need to sack it after this. This gives me a free switch in into Crocodile, who can manage to take it down easy enough. Lastly, we have Murkrow. Now, I know this thing can take us down, so I need to be smart about it. I decide to switch in to Beelzebub. I then set up a Scary Face, but it's actually done major damage to us at this point, so I opt to switch into Lilith. This, however, was a bad call. There's no really massive move I can play, and I thought we'd take it out, but we didn't. I see Bisharp being needed realistically for the Ice-type gym, so I think this was the best Pokemon to sack out of all of them, but it's such a shame as Absol is such a good Pokemon and it's been with us from the beginning. With it being incredibly low at this point, though, all it takes is a Water Shuriken from Lucifer and we have won this battle, but we have lost it, losing 2/3 of our team. At this point, now we've lost a good chunk of our team, I need to be smart about it, and I evolved Beelzebub into a Bisharp. I also evolved Eva into Umbreon, which I honestly thought I captured, but apparently I didn't, so I apologise for that. We go a little bit further, and we get a bit of a story time telling us about the Pokemon War. Yep, that's a thing in Pokemon. Did you not know? Did you not listen to what Lieutenant Surge said to you in Gen 1? I then get a choice to save a town by pressing a button, and oh my god, I made the wrong choice. Do not put me in charge of any country. I've just ruined this town. We then go a bit further, and Serena says she's going to come with us, but she actually doesn't follow us into the elevator. This makes it a lot weirder, as somehow the elevator has gone up and down again by the time we walk like 2 feet to speak to Lysandre. Thing is, though, we've come a lot more prepared, so this Lysandre fight isn't anywhere near as scary as the last one. We start off with Belith, who actually manages to Psycho Cut the Mine Shell, taking minimal damage from a high jump kick. After this, Gyarados comes out, so I bring in Lucifer so I can use a Smackdown against it, as I know it's not going to do much damage with any of its moves to us. Knowing it's Smackdown and it won't be using a water move, I can safely switch into Merryhead, who at this point has learned Earthquake, which obviously, thanks to the Soft Sand boost, is going to take down the Gyarados. We then have Pyro come out, but again, one move and it's down, and we have 2 Moxie boosts ready for the Honchkrow, which means all we need to do is crunch that thing twice. Just goes to show how well an actual proper setup can go when you don't forget to heal like a moron. We then have Shauna give us this inspirational speech, and to get her to shut up about the power of friendship, we just let her come with us. But hey, it works out. She's apparently an insanely good pick locker. We then awaken the great beast being Yveltal, the inspiration for our typing for this run. And for those of you who don't know, you can't actually progress in the game without catching this Pokemon. Therefore, it makes sense just to throw my Master Ball and catch this thing. Thankfully, unlike my fairy run, I have a full team at this point, so I don't have to worry too much, as I don't have to switch in and take a free hit on any of his Pokemon. It starts off the exact same as last time, with Bailey's taking out the Minshew in 1. I then try and get a Hypnosis off on the Pyro, but it misses, and on top of that, I get burned. Therefore, I can't keep this thing in, as it's now in range to be taken out, so I switch Lucifer in, as I know I only need 1 Surf to take a Pyro out. After that, we've got Honchkrow, and we use Smackdown, and we hit it, and we take it down to under half health, but it has also taken us into crit range, so we need to be wary. Because of this, it makes sense to bring Mayhem in, and I know this thing isn't going to do major damage to us, so I use a few power-up punches to ensure that I'll be ready for the Gyarados. The Gyarados then comes out, and I know it's going to Mega Evolve and lose its typing, therefore I boosted my attack, I've got Soft Sand on, Earthquake is anything but a one-shot, I'll be incredibly surprised. Thankfully it does, and that wins us the battle. And with capturing Yveltal, we now have a beautiful HM Slave. We carry on a bit further, and I actually forgot that Pupitar was able to be caught in this game, so we managed to catch one, which is going to give us a Tyranitar. Speaking of which, obviously evolving this thing was the first thing I did. I then travel a little further into the place where you run into the Pokemon village, and I find a Zoroark. Now that we've sorted all the rigmarole with him and getting him back to his gym, we're now ready to take on Wolfric. I start off with Tyranitar, as I've actually taught this thing Fire Fang, and I know it will one-shot Abomasnow with it. Next up is Cryogonal, who does confuse us, but thankfully we hit through it and we can get another Fire Fang off. Unfortunately though, I don't want to take a risk with us being confused, so I choose to switch into Beelzebub, but at this point he set up a curse which ups his defense quite a bit, so our Iron Heads aren't doing major damage. He manages to knock us quite low, so I opt to switch into Tannin, hoping that he'll be able to take him out. However, at this point it's lowered its speed quite a bit, and I remember that it has Gyro Balls, so I just switch Bailiff in. Unfortunately, the Sandstorm damage that I brought in with Tyranitar then makes him heal, and that puts him on full health. And at this point, he's set up so many curses that his defense is impenetrable, and I only have one special attacker, that being Lucifer. Thankfully, Surf does absolutely amazing damage, and that means that we manage to take him down using only a few Surfs after a bit of healing. We then see the gate open to Victory Road, and my god, the animation on this is beautiful. As we progress a bit further, we have one final Serena fight. We've lost Absol, so we've lost the Aerial Ace for Chestnut, so I need to be careful, and I choose to start off with Mayhem to begin this battle. I know the Meowstic won't do major damage to us, so it gives us an opportunity to set up a few power-up punches. Once I'm at around half health, I decide it's best to just go for a crunch and take it out, so we're not risking anything anywhere else. Vaporeon then comes out, but it only takes one Earthquake to take that thing out. At this point, thanks to the Moxie, we're now +4, so it only takes one crunch for the Altaria. At +5 and Soft Sand, Chestnut doesn't stand a chance against an Earthquake. Finally, we have Absol, but we're maxed out attack, so one Earthquake takes her down with ease. And with that, we can get the final encounter I'm going to grab this run, being a Zweilous. I then was also forgetting to record, but I did actually lose Beelzebub to a Slowbro with Flamethrower. I'll be honest, I was kind of rushing through and I forgot to check the moveset on this thing. Before we begin the Elite Four, obviously I'm going to evolve my Zweilous into a Hydreigon. And this is the final team I've decided on. So I decided it would be best to use Hydreigon, Malamar, Greninja, Crocodile, Tyranitar, and finally Zoroark. The first Elite Four member I decide to take on is obviously going to be the Fire type in Malva. As you can imagine, this battle goes by incredibly easy because the only thing that's faster than us and can do any damage is Talonflame with Brave Bird, but even a crit won't take us out and we'll one-shot every single one of them with Surf, so that's exactly what we do. It's incredibly nice to have such a late-game easy fight. Now, looking at the ones that we have to take on, Wilkstrom makes sense, as I think he's going to be the easiest one going forward. I start off with Zoroark, and because I've disguised it as my Vesper, I am able to set up 2 nasty plots without it even touching us. This means we've doubled our special attack, and I actually taught Zoroark Flamethrower for this fight. There's literally nothing that can take us out at this point. The only Pokemon that we need to worry about realistically is the Probopass, but I chose Greninja so it would use Discharge against us. This means we're pretty safe to just take it out after a bit of a battle with its Sturdy. Next up, we've got what I believe is going to be the scariest of all of these, being Seabolt. I choose again to start off with Zoroark, but this time I've taught it Grass Knot instead of Flamethrower. It takes 2 of these to knock the Clawitzer out, but it does do some decent damage to us in that time frame. It's also the reason I chose Malamar as the one we're disguised as otherwise an Aura Sphere would have taken him out. Anyway, Barbaracle obviously is going to go down to 1 Grass Knot, being 4 times weak to it. We then just have Starmie. Now I need to give a bit of a think about what I'm going to do for this one. I decide Lucifer is probably the safest switch in here, but a Dazzling Gleam knocks us incredibly low. I then expect it not to go for Dazzling Gleam because we're that low, but it does, so my switching to Hades was completely miscalculated. Malamar is then the best one to come in, and after putting it to sleep, I set up a few Carmines, and that makes me able to take it out with a Thunderbolt. Lastly is the Gyarados, but it's nothing to worry about as we just use 1 Thundershock and we've taken it out. Now we have the final Elite Four member being the Dragon type. I opt to start off with Merihim, who uses an Earthquake to take down the Dragalge in one. This gives us a Moxie boost, so it only takes 2 crunches for the Altaria. Drudigon then comes out, but at this point we are +2 on attack, so we manage to take it out in 1 Earthquake. And then finally there is Noivern. It can hit us, but 1 crunch is more than enough to seal its fate. Now we've just got Champion Diantha to deal with. Malma is the best one to start off with, as it can take the Howlucha out in 1 Psycho Cut, but it does take some extreme damage itself. I then switch Hades in on the next turn because I actually want to bait a Dragonclaw. Dragonclaw cannot possibly take down Merihim, which leaves him open to use an Earthquake to take down the Tyrantrum. Gudra follows the exact same fate. At double attack, do you really expect Auroras to do any better? Gorgeous, we've got Crunch, which is super effective. It would have one-shot even without the Moxie boost. And finally, we have Gardevoir, but we use 1 Crunch. We're faster than it, so we take it down, no troubles whatsoever. And that makes us the champion of Kalos. Dark types are a truly wonderful typing, and I'm not surprised at all we won here. As always, if you guys enjoyed, a like would help me out massively, as it would spread this video further and help with the growth of the channel. I know there are a fair few people who watch my content who aren't actually subscribed. If you could do it, it would be greatly appreciated by me. It's free and it's just a click of a button. Plus, it makes sure you keep seeing all my videos. Lastly, leave runs below in the comments and I will add them to my list. There is a massive list at this point, but I'm trying to get through them as quick as I can. And as always, I hope you're all having a great day and goodbye.